Moving on to our next chapter, which is the solid waste management. In this chapter, we will be outlining various different kinds of waste which are present and how these waste are generated, and what are the different types of solid waste which are present in India, and what are the different solid waste management methods which are implied to get rid of this waste. Moving on to what are waste. Actually, biologically, this is any unwanted material which is expelled from the activities of living organisms, such as metabolic waste, which includes urea and sweat. Or normally in a layman language, we call it as waste is just a junk, or it is a garbage, it is a rubbish, or it is a refuse. But biologically, we call it as any unwanted substance which is expelled by the activities of living organisms. Now, what are the different types of waste present? One are the solid waste. Waste that are present in the solid forms, that can result from domestic activities, from commercial purposes, from industrial waste, and these include plastics, bottles, cans, paper, scrap, iron and other trash. So this includes the solid waste. Next is the liquid waste. Liquid waste is that waste which is in the form of a liquid. As the name implies, it is in the form of liquid, and this can also result from domestic washings, chemicals, oil, waste. So all these compounds which are actually liquid in nature, they comprises the liquid waste. Next is the biodegradable. Biodegradable is any that substance which can be degraded by the action of microbes. So biodegradable waste is that waste which can be degraded, such as paper, wood, fruits and other, which can be degraded, which can be converted into harmless substances from harmful substances by the action of microorganisms. What are non-biodegradable degradable waste which cannot be degraded by the action of microbes or any other activity, and these include plastics, bottles, old machines, cans, styrofoam containers and various others. What are hazardous waste? Hazardous, as the name suggests, it is harmful waste, so substance which is unsafe to use. So that those substances which are unsafe to use, whether commercially, industrially, agriculturally or economically, so they are regarded as a hazardous waste. So next moving on to non-hazardous. Non-hazardous is any that substance which is safe to use commercially, industrially, agriculturally or economically. So that comprises a non-hazardous component. Moving on to different types of waste on the basis of their origin and type. So from where they are originating and what is the type, we are also classifying them on this basis. The first category is municipal solid waste. It includes that solid waste which includes the household garbage, which includes rubbish, construction and packaging materials or etc. Actually, what municipal solid waste is that which are managed by the municipality of that particular area. So that includes the municipal solid waste. Next is the biomedical waste, which resulting from the biomedical purposes. It can be a solid waste or it can be a liquid waste, and these includes all the equipments or all the research activities or the medical equipments that are used. Next includes the industrial waste. Definitely it results from the activities of industries itself. So this also comprises liquid as well as the solid waste which are resulting from the various processing units of the industries. Next is agriculture waste. It is a waste which is generated from the agriculture purposes, from the agricultural or farming activities. It comprises the agriculture waste, and these substances are mostly biodegradable, and these include all the pesticides, insecticides that we are spraying, which are even hazardous sometimes. So all those components comprises the agriculture waste. Next is the fishery waste. It is a waste which is generated due to fishery activities, and the last one is the e-waste. E-waste means electronic waste, and electronic waste is generated from any modern establishment, from any modern electronic equipment such as mobile computers, wires, circuits. All this comprises the e-waste. Now, what are the different sources of waste? Household activities are one of the sources of waste. Industry activities is also a source of waste. Agriculture or farming activities, fisheries that we have already discussed, all these are the various sources from which waste is generated. So this is a graph which is representing the percentage of how much waste is generated from what purpose. The majority of waste is generated from paper and paper board, which is 28.5%, and then from food scraps, which is 13.9%, from yard trimmings it is 13.4%, from plastics it is 12.4%, 9% from metals, Rubber, leather and textiles form 8.4%. 6.4% is a waste generated from wood. 4.6% is of glass, and 3.4 are the other reasons from where waste is generated. So these are the various sources from where waste is actually generated. Now, what is the solid waste which is generated in India and how much it is generated? Actually, 7.2 million tons of hazardous waste is present right now, and 1 square kilometer of additional landfill area everywhere. Landfill area is nothing but it is just a method of disposal of these waste into cavities or into pits that we will be discussing. It is one of the solid waste management method. So there are 1 square kilometer of additional landfill area. That means that we are using more and more area so that to put this waste into a pit like cavity, and around rupees 1600 crore is used for the treatment and disposal of this solid or liquid waste. So this shows that yes, a lot of hazardous waste is actually present in India, and we have certain methods to get rid of this waste, and how this waste is actually growing into leaps and bounds. It is growing by leaps and bounds, and even like city like Bangalore, it produces 2000 tons of waste per year. So this is how what we can get an idea that how much waste is actually produced annually. Now, what are the different methods by which this waste which was produced, it is collected in India? What are the different methods? The first method is that city municipality, it maintains this waste and it collects this waste and dump this waste into city outskirts. And local raddiwala or kabadiwala, even they use certain methods so that they can also pick up those waste which are present in a municipality or in a local area. And how this solid waste which is present, it actually affected our life in recent years. If you have noticed that in Mumbai 2005, the sewage line was actually clogged. The reason for this clogging of sewage line, which actually happens not in Mumbai or in very other posh areas, just the reason was that large number of plastic bags were being dumped, and this plastic bags resulting in the clogging of the sewage lines. There was blast in the Busan city factor at steel factory at Noida, and the reason for this blast was that there was a large number of imported scrap from Iran, and this solid waste was the reason of this blast at this steel factory. There was even reduction in number of migratory birds because they have consumed a lot of contaminated food, a lot of contaminated, there is a lot of contamination everywhere, and that's why these migratory birds have been reduced due to this contamination. And various animals, you must have observed that they are dying on streets in farmland because they are consuming a large number of plastic bags, and which are hazardous and which are actually fatal. Next are the various health impacts of solid waste. What are the health impacts or serious issues that are related to these waste? Actually, exposure to hazardous waste can affect human health, and children are being more vulnerable, more susceptible to these pollutants. Which are the improperly operated incineration plants? They cause air pollution, and they are improperly managed and designed landfills. They attract a lot of insects. You must have observed a lot of insects, or a lot of mosquitoes have occupied the area of landfill or incineration area, and they are known to spread diseases. Direct handling, it also results in chronic diseases for all the workers who are working at that site. Now moving on to some solid waste management methods. The first method is a landfill method. This is the most traditional method. In this method, what we do, the waste is directly dumped into a disused quarries or into borrow pits. So all the waste, it is dumped into pits like structure, and this disposed waste is then compacted. Compacting is just a compressing of a waste with the help of different vehicles or something. This whole waste is compacted, or it is compressed into a small structure. Then gases generated by then we undergo this waste is allowed to decompose, and upon decomposition, when gases are generated, they are burned to generate power. These gases are used so that they can help in generation of power, so that it can solve our twin purposes. And this landfill method is generally used for domestic waste, not for industrial or agriculture waste. What are the different advantages and disadvantages of using a landfill method? Landfill method is a very cheap method, first thing. Second thing, it will definitely create employment for people who will be working on this site, and lots of different types of waste can be disposed, not only a domestic waste, whether some other waste can also be disposed. And this last point, which is very important, is that the gases which are generated upon the decomposition of waste, it can be used for generating power, so that it solves our twin purpose. The next is the disadvantage. Disadvantage is that the site on which this landfill area is occupied, the site looks ugly. It also attracts various insects and mosquitoes, which can cause some chronic diseases too. Dangerous gases which are given off, it results in air pollution, and also it can result to global warming, and the local streams become polluted. The area where landfill area is there, it becomes polluted with toxins, and these toxins even seep through the ground. So these are the various disadvantages of the landfill method. The second method is the incineration method. In this method, what we do, combustion of soil is occurring at a temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius. The solid waste is allowed to undergo combustion at a temperature of 1000 degrees Celsius, and in this method, all the solid waste, they are converted into ash or into a gas or into heat, and the ash, which is mostly formed by inorganic constituents of the waste, and gases are mostly formed due to the organic waste. A lot of heat is generated, and this heat can be used to generate electric power. What are the advantages and disadvantages? Advantages is that in this method, you don't need to have a large land, or minimum land is needed for this purpose, and the weight of waste is reduced to 25%. 25% waste is 25% of the waste is actually reduced, and there is no risk, as you have discussed, that in landfill area you had a risk of polluting the local streams or a local area, but in this method there is no risk of polluting local streams and the groundwaters as it was in the landfills. And this plants can be located to residential area. You don't need to put it in the outskirts of the city. You can put it in the residential areas as well, because these are not releasing any harmful substances that can be harmful or cause some chronic diseases. And the gases which are generated, it is used to generate power. The disadvantage of this method is that this method is quite expensive as compared to landfill method, and definitely it will not serve employment for the normal people. Definitely you require some skilled labor who will be working here. No doubt it will generate employment, but it needs some skilled labor, and the chemicals that would be released could be a strong pollutant. You cannot say that it will not destroy, or it will not be fatal, or it will not cause any disease. Definitely the gases which are released, they are toxic in nature, and they may act as a strong pollutant, and you need a high energy for this purpose, and these are few disadvantages of this method. Next method is the compaction. As I have already told you what compaction includes. Compaction, in this method we actually compress. We break up large or fragile atoms of waste using this method, and this process is very important. In this, what we use many garbage collection vehicles, and with the help of these we compact or we compress the large waste which is present. Now 3 R's. What do you mean by 3 R's? 3 R's include reduce, reuse and recycle. So what are these methods? In reuse, what you can do, you can help by pre-cycling. You can buy those packages that can be recycled or made of some recycled materials. When you buy something small, say no thanks to a bag. So this is one method in which you can use, or you can reduce the use of a bag, you can reduce the use of plastics. Reuse, in reuse what we can use is, you can reuse the stuff you borrow, and instead of throwing them out, use coffee cans and cottage cheese containers for storage, and don't use plastic bags. Use back of paper or bags of used envelope for jotting notes. In fact, this method is a good. Put leftovers in resealable containers instead of using wraps and foil. So these are few methods in which we can reuse the stuff instead of throwing them away. What is recycle? In each year what we do, we use 25 billion plastic containers, 30 billion bottles and jars, 65 billion aluminium cans and 100 billion pounds of paper. So what you can do is you can recycle this stuff. If you definitely require plastic container for some purpose, the only thing you can do is you can recycle this. So reaching on to conclusion, it is found that with the increase in the global population and the food demand is increasing and the demand of various other essentials is increasing, there has been increase in the amount of waste which is generated by each domestic purpose, even by industrial or commercial purposes or by agriculture activities. Waste which is not properly managed, especially human excreta, animal excreta, and other liquid and solid waste which is resulting from households and from various other communities, they are a serious health hazard and they may lead to spread of several infectious diseases. So what we can do is we can use the 3 R's method, which is reduce, recycle. We can use that method, and the other thing which we can use some solid waste management methods, provided that they do not cause a threat to the life which is surrounding that area.